Right, my name is David Insley and I work for a company called BMT Highkey Sigma, and my brief is about project controls in counter-IED or counter-improvised explosive device. Okay. Is everyone familiar with what IEDs are? Okay. Describe them in brief terms. They are basically the primary method of attack that the insurgency uses in Afghanistan at the moment. You might have come across them in the news. They are responsible for the majority of the attacks and injuries and fatalities of civilians and the coalition forces in Afghanistan. Okay? In terms of the improvised element, that just means that these are devices which are constructed from everyday materials, which are very easily obtained. Okay? Is that okay? Is that an okay description? Brilliant. Oh, it's gone right to the end for some reason. Do apologise. That is extremely strange. Right, let's try again. Okay, so that's a bit of a profile on me. The important things to pick out from that: I've been with BMT Highkey Sigma for 3 years. Majority of that time has been around working on counter-IED projects for the UK Ministry of Defence. I'm a chartered engineer with the Institute of Mechanical Engineering. I'm also a full member of the Association for Project Management as well. So it follows on quite nicely. In terms of the contents, I'll give you an introduction to BMT, what BMT Group are all about, and what BMT Highkey Sigma are all about. Then I'll give you an insight into the work that we've done in supporting the UK Ministry of Defence in counter-IED. We'll look at some of the challenges in managing and delivering those projects, and look at the tailored approach that we need to take in this area. Okay, the tailored approach to controlling these projects to ensure that we can deliver. Okay. Then we'll summarise by looking at the benefits to the client, which in our case is the UK Ministry of Defence, and their equipment suppliers, i.e. the industry players who provide and support the actual hardware and software. Okay? And then hopefully be time for questions at the end. Right, BMT. Highkey Sigma is part of BMT Group, okay? And Group is a international design, engineering and risk management consultancy, okay? Sectors of operation: defence, energy and environment, and maritime transport. We invest significantly in research, and the main thing to note there is that the group's assets are held in beneficial ownership for the staff, right? Okay. We are a employee benefit trust. The various legalities and arrangements involved in that mean that we are able to retain our independence and impartiality. We are not owned by anyone, okay? We're not directly involved in manufacturing activities or supply chain type activities. We provide knowledge to the client, okay? Just some figures there, just so you know how big the BMT Group business is. Okay. 142 million turnover, 23 companies, 40 offices in 15 countries. And some of the benefits: global client base, obviously knowledge sharing networks, practice communities, cross-selling, cross-fertilisation of skills and career opportunities. In terms of the market sectors, plainly shows that defence is our largest sector at the moment, okay? And that's predominantly the area that the company I work for, the subsidiary I work for, operates in. But the other areas, energy and environment and transport, are also significant. In terms of geography, Europe primarily, but also North America and Asia Pacific, okay? Right, if we hone in on Highkey Sigma, which is the subsidiary that I work for, it's a professional services company. We've got 64 consultants currently. However, with our associates business, that takes it up to 100 strong, working across the UK through offices in Bath, Basingstoke and London. Okay. Operate across defence, energy and transportation, but defence is the core of our business. Turnover 2011 of 10 million. And again, I come back to the fact that we are an employee benefit trust. We're not owned by anyone. We don't do any manufacturing supply chain type activity. It is truly independent and impartial advice that we provide to clients. Okay? And it's all about bringing clarity to the customer. That's what it's all about. That's what we're trying to achieve at the end of the day, because projects and programs and portfolios are extremely complex, no doubt about it. In terms of summing up our capabilities, the diagram on the right there, and on the bottom you can see our various capabilities that we provide, our consultancy services. Okay? If you wanted to divide it up into two big chunks, there's project and program management and the systems engineering. And systems engineering, everything from solutions definition or the requirements management space all the way up to enterprise architecture and modelling. Okay? Okay, we'll get on to the subject matter now. Our work in counter IED. Excuse me. In terms of just a few caveats that I need to put forward, it's all unclassified information, it's all open source information. Okay? The main aims are to provide you with an insight into our capabilities and how we've applied our services and our skills to counter IED projects. And hopefully give you a flavour of my personal experience, some of the lessons that I've learned, and put across some of my opinions in how to tackle these kind of projects. Okay? But the focus is going to be on the management and the control, the project management, okay? Not the specific threats, not the military capabilities or the equipment, because obviously that's a bit sensitive, okay? Although if you want to have a chat with me afterwards, I'll see what I can tell you, all right? Right, okay, I've got a few context slides now, okay? Just to put into context exactly what IEDs are. If you Google IED attacks, then you will come up with a number of videos, some of which are pretty horrendous. This is a video of a American Humvee convoy getting attacked in Iraq by an IED. It's actually filmed by the triggerman, and you can probably see in the distance there's a little triangle of rocks, okay, and that's the aiming point for the triggerman. So that's what he's using as an aiming point. So let's just play this. We might have some sound actually as well. Okay, so you can see that the triggerman has aimed for the Humvee at the back of the convoy there. And you can see the effect is pretty devastating. So nobody walked away from that attack. Okay? So that just shows you how serious this is. Okay, a bit more context. This is a map of Afghanistan. Okay? The red dots are all the IED attacks right the way out to 2009, cumulatively. Okay? This is straight out of The Guardian, so it's open source information. I'm not sharing anything sensitive with you. Okay? If we focus in on the UK area of operation, or the primary UK area of operation, which is Helmand Province, okay, we can see that the concentration of IED attacks is significant. And one of the main reasons for that is in Kandahar, over to the right of the diagram there, that is considered the spiritual home of the Taliban. So they're obviously very keen to maintain a presence within this area. And as a result, there's an awful lot of attacks. Okay. Towards the north there, we have Sangin, which has been dubbed one of the most dangerous towns in Afghanistan. We handed over responsibility for that area to the US in 2010, and because they are drawing down their troop numbers in this area, we're actually taking it back on. So we're going back into that extremely dangerous area. Okay? But that's just to put it into context. I didn't want to throw statistics at you because you'll find there's a vast range. Again, if you look up on Google or whatever IED attack statistics, then you'll find a broad range of information there, because the government will not release specific figures of how many of the fatalities and the casualties are actually due to IEDs, because that's sensitive information. Okay? But you can get a good idea for how serious the situation is. Let's have a look at the type of projects that we've been involved in with the UK Ministry of Defence. Everything from vehicle-based systems to handheld detection devices to military working dogs, which are actually the best method of detecting explosives. Okay? And in the bottom right there, biometrics as well. So capturing biometric information of local people, locally employed civilians, for security purposes. Okay? Excuse me. In terms of our consultancy effort, we've supported the delivery of projects across the deter, detect, neutralise and exploit aspects of counter-IED. Okay? They are specific capabilities within the counter-IED cycle. Our main clients, as I said, the client for this is the UK Ministry of Defence. Within that, there are several discrete client organisations. First Defence Equipment and Support, based in Bristol. We've provided consultancy to the Force Protection Delivery Team, who focus on delivering counter-IED capability to the all-arms military user across the Royal Navy, the Army, Royal Air Force, and also in the special projects area, and that's more focused on your specialist military user. An example of that is explosives ordnance disposal experts. So when a device is actually located, EOD people will go in and make that device safe. Okay? We also do work for the STL as well, the research organisation, which basically provides the underpinning technology technology for the UK MOD that drives a lot of this capability. Okay, so they are the technical experts in essence. In terms of the consulting model that we operate, it's not just focused on project management. We do provide technical expertise as well. And you'll remember that I mentioned that we also offer systems engineering consultancy, so that's that part of it. We like to embed, not embed, yes we do get embed with the client, but we embed with the client as what we call their independent customer friend. Okay, we're independent, we're impartial, we work alongside them to implement and manage project control systems to deliver this capability. And we utilise what's called a flexible reach back mechanism. So if I'm embedded within a client team and I need some expertise in cost modelling, which is not my particular area of expertise, I can reach back into my organisation and draw on that. Okay? Right, let's have a look at some of the challenges in managing these projects then. If we look at the nature of counter-IED projects, there's a rapid evolution of the threat. That's the main challenge, okay? So if we look at coalition forces on one side, the insurgents on the other side, constantly trying to get into each other's decision-making cycle, okay? Trying to get ahead of the game, okay? So the insurgents will come up with a new type of device, a new way of attacking the coalition troops. Coalition troops will come up with a new way of defending against that threat, and that is a constantly evolving process, okay? So therefore, reaction time is critical. If we take the good old performance, cost, time, project management triangle, time is absolutely paramount on these projects, okay? In terms of the origin of urgent projects, within the context of counter-IED, and from the UK MOD's point of view, they're initiated by the military user in theatre, okay? When I talk about theatre, I mean Afghanistan, the area of operation. They will identify and articulate a current or imminent gap. They are there, they're on the ground, they can see what's going on, and they will be able to work out the gaps in the current capability that's out there at the moment, okay? It's got to be justified, so something must have changed on the ground, I said earlier about the decision-making cycle. If we take counter-IED, if there's a new type of device which current equipment in Afghan cannot defend against or defeat, then that's a capability gap. We need a new piece of technology to counter that particular threat. Okay? The other thing to bear in mind is obviously there's going to be a changing role over the next 4 years. Okay? Coalition forces are going to be drawing down. We're going to be handing over more responsibility to the Afghan National Security Force. Okay? So changing role, changing requirements, there will be a need potentially for different types of capability, different types of equipment. Okay? And the mode of operation of the insurgents may well change depending on what we're up to. Okay? In terms of the development route, apologies for the acronyms, but COTS-MOTS, commercial off the shelf, something you can go and buy off the shelf directly from a company. MOTS is modified off the shelf, so you take that product and you modify it to meet your requirements. Okay? The other route, if you've got a bit more time to play with, or there's nothing on the shelf at all that can meet your needs, then you can go through the full development path, and that's where you engage with your research community, DSTL, who are at the cutting edge of technology. Okay? And once a piece of capability is developed and bench tested and the concept is proved, it will then be handed over to defence industry for them to manufacture something, productionise it, okay, get it into service and support it. Great. Excuse me. The focus is very much on the delivery of equipment. Okay, I've said that it's all about reaction time. Time is absolutely critical, so we're looking to deliver equipment into theatre to the military users as quickly as possible. Therefore, what we can find is that the other what are called lines of development, such as training, logistics, etc., may have to play a bit of catch-up. Okay, so you may not have an all-singing, all-dancing training and simulation package to accompany the capability. You may have to just deliver the equipment into Afghanistan and people will have to figure out how to use it on the ground, okay? Or it will have the bare minimum of training. A couple of other challenges. Integration. The systems that we've helped the UK MOD deliver, it's not just about getting them fitted into vehicle platforms, but it's also about interfacing systems with people as well. There are people-based systems that are out there. Therefore, size, weight and power is very important. Okay? It's got to fit into a specific envelope which is defined. Interoperability with equipment used by our partner nations as well. That's very important, especially if it's electronics type equipment, communications equipment. Those systems need to be able to operate together. Okay? Or you need to establish workarounds to make sure that you don't end up compromising someone else's performance. All right? Also, if you need to get this equipment into theatre quickly, then you need a rapid response from your equipment suppliers. Okay? So that's a challenge for them, a challenge for industry. And finally there, what do you do when the operation is over? What happens when we pull out of Afghanistan and we've got all this equipment? How do we take that forward? How do we support it going forward? How does it fit into our future vision for the armed forces and what they're going to be doing 10, 15, 20 years down the line? Right, okay, project controls then. Tailored approach. These are quick-fire projects. They're not aircraft carriers, they're not destroyers, they're not the Olympics infrastructure, nowhere near that size or complexity. Okay, so you need to tailor the approach. That's what this is all about. Okay? If we work round the good old cost, time, performance or quality as it's called, triangle, if we have a look at performance and scope first, getting a specification for a piece of equipment right up front is absolutely crucial. That's what the scope of the project is all about, and that dictates the performance that you require. For urgent projects, there is going to be some sort of trade-off required in terms of performance. You're not going to get 100%. You cannot strive for the gold-plated solution when you're trying to deliver something as quickly as possible, when time is key. Okay, so concessions are inevitable. However, you've still got to deliver the fundamentals. So what's the key takeaway message there for project managers? You've got to engage with your technical staff. You've got to engage with your engineers. Okay? To prevent what I've termed, happens quite a lot, over specifying what you require, gold plating a solution. All right? I worked in a team which was led by a certain army brigadier, and his favourite saying was, the best is the enemy of the good enough. Okay? If you're always striving for the best, you'll never quite achieve it when perhaps the 80% solution will do the job that you need it to do. Okay? But obviously you need to measure the impact of those concessions. What is actually acceptable? And as I've already said, some of the key considerations, size, weight, power, and in some cases noise as well. Okay? Right, so you need a tailored approach. Focus the testing on what's important, using evidential read across where possible. So if you've already proved something over here, why on earth do you need to repeat this test for your piece of equipment? System meeting a partner nation standard may satisfy UK standard by default. We are closely aligned with UK mil specs. Okay, we have our defence standards, we call them, within the client organisation, the UK MOD. If you satisfy a US mil spec, you may well satisfy the UK standards as well. So try and use read across where possible. So a detailed but appropriately flexible specification is key. Okay? It's difficult to satisfy everything if, for example, you are using commercial off-the-shelf equipment. You've gone and got something which industry already manufacture, because that will be developed for potentially a different set of conditions. For example, climate. It might not be able to operate in the extremes of climate that you would get in Afghanistan. Okay? But you've got to take that hit. But you've got to take a balance. If you've got no concession, then you might not get any capability. You're chasing that gold-plated solution. If you've got too much concession there, then the capability may not be fit for purpose when it's actually put into use. And you need to have a regime of progressive assurance. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that time is of the essence. So as the product is being developed, or if it's being made ready, if it's an off-the-shelf solution, as you're going through your testing to say, yes, it does what I want, start to tick the boxes as soon as possible in the process, because you haven't got time to do the type of testing that you would do with big, complex programs. Okay? Right, let's get around to the time point on the triangle then. I don't know whether you guys have come across this before, but automatic reaction to urgent, quick turnaround projects is to go into firefighting mode. Okay? I don't have time to plan. I don't have time to do this project management stuff. I've just got to do. All right? But it comes back to tailoring again. Big, complex programs, you know, big capital ships or the Olympics, you will have schedules in there that could be thousands of lines long. Okay? For an urgent project, that's just too time consuming. You don't need that level of detail. And because the time tends to be a lot shorter than these big projects, then obviously you're not going to get that, you do not need that level of detail to cover the scope of work. So the key message is there, right level of detail, capture the full scope of work still, okay, the training, the logistics where you can. Make sure you've got a clear critical path, okay, so you can focus in on those critical activities. Make sure you've got clear milestones, so it's absolutely clear what needs to be achieved. There's no reason why you can't take into account uncertainty and risk, even on urgent projects, okay? Again, as I say, you wouldn't do it to the degree that you would with a big, complex program. You would tailor it, okay? You would concentrate on the key areas which you're uncertain about. You would concentrate on the risks that are absolutely critical to achieving the outcome, okay? And obviously you need to be able to track and measure the schedule that you produce, so you need to baseline it, you need to resource it, you need to progress it, all those good discipline things that you would do on any project, okay? Needs to be coherent with the equipment supplier as well, the industrial company that is actually going to provide the equipment. So you need to make sure that it ties up with their activity. And obviously you need to track their progress in the same way, okay? And the key to all of that is regular review and update. Does that make sense? Good. Right, okay, so if we get on to cost, not as critical as time for urgent projects. We've talked about time, we talked about rapid turnarounds, okay, throughout this brief. Cost is still important, okay? Because, if you haven't noticed, we are in an extremely challenging economic situation. Value for money is essential, okay? Absolutely essential. So focus on time, but cost is still important. We've been in Afghanistan since 2001, so that's a long time, okay? These urgent projects still have to go through a rigorous financial scrutiny process, okay? And because we've been in Afghanistan for a long time, we've got a lot of equipment there, we've got a lot of capability, so you need to justify anything new that you need to get into to the operation, okay? You've got to be able to justify it. What I'm saying is the money isn't endless. So if we're looking at our business case, there's a familiar term, a familiar document in any project. Pre-business case, you need your robust cost estimates. How much is it going to cost to get this capability where it needs to be and support it? Once a business case has been approved, then the project is funded based on those agreed costs and it is controlled, okay, in the same way that your schedule is controlled. So, how do you do that? You need a cost model, okay? Again, it's tailored. The breakdown structure, or simply the information within your cost model, needs to be tailored to the phases of the project life cycle. For an urgent project, you perhaps wouldn't go through every single stage in your project life cycle, okay? You may have a simplified process that you go through. But as long as your cost model reflects that and captures all the relevant costs, then that's absolutely fine. Cost needs to be justified, so you need clear assumptions, that single source of truth. And again, same with the time element, you need to include uncertainty and risk where appropriate. Okay? Right. We're coming up to the final piece of the jigsaw now. Not doing too bad for time. Need a simple but robust risk management system. Again, it comes back to tailoring. You perhaps need to put a hierarchy of risk in place. Some of the teams I've worked in, they have 10 to 15 projects that are live at any one time, okay? So you need some sort of way of grouping those projects into sensible chunks that you can actually reasonably manage, okay? So set up a hierarchy to reflect programs and portfolios, okay? However the client wishes to break down their project, okay? Their set of projects. You've also got to make sure that you satisfy the corporate reporting requirements for risk, still, even though it's an urgent project, and have a route of escalation. If you've got a risk that you cannot deal with at desk level, then you need an escalation route, even if it's an urgent project. And in fact, there's more emphasis on that for urgent projects because it needs to be resolved more quickly. Okay? In terms of the simple stages, apologise if I'm teaching you to simple stuff here, but identify analyse, plan, manage, identify what concerns do key stakeholders have, what are their worries about delivering this scope of work, analyse what's the probability and impact on cost, time and performance of those risks, plan how are you going to actually mitigate these risks, okay, what are you going to do about them, the so what question, and then management, you implement your mitigation actions, go through a process of regular review, configuration control, and make sure that you link your risks back to your project assumptions, your single point of truth. Okay? Great. And the final point there on this slide is joint risk management. Where possible, I would suggest that joint risk management with the providers of the equipment is a good thing. Okay, and I've implemented that on a number of urgent projects for the Ministry of Defence. Okay, another slide on risk. Risk analysis. Again, it's all about tailoring. You can take a tailored approach to risk analysis on both your cost model and your schedule for the urgent project. Okay, what does that give you? It gives you your confidence figures. You might have heard of them as 10, 50, 90% confidence figures for time and cost. Okay? And if you do a simple analysis, you can get figures to underpin the business case pre-approval and post-approval to actually control the boundaries of the project in terms of cost and time. Okay? And in order to establish that control, this isn't a one-off activity, okay? You need to do an analysis of the impact of risk on cost and time initially and then revisit it on a regular basis, okay? Because you need to know whether you're going to go outside of your cost-time boundaries. Good. Right, intervention. One of the key services that we provide is intervention or project diagnostics. So, if you've got an effective project control system in place, it's going to assist with early warning of threats. It's going to assist with telling you whether you are going to exceed your cost, time, and to a certain extent performance boundaries for the project. Okay? We get a number of cases where the client have spotted that this is going to happen, or we spot it while we're working for the client, and we can then carry out what we call independent project reviews. Okay? So we can go in, analyse the situation from the client's perspective and the equipment supplier's perspective, looking at their practices, identify the root cause of the problems, which, for example, can be lack of resources, contractual arrangements, in some examples, specification or scope creep, requirements creep, etc. We then report or recommend on corrective action and help the client to implement that corrective action and evaluate progress on a regular basis. Okay? Right, so just summing up some of the benefits in the last few minutes. Benefits to the client. As I said, our main client here is the UK Ministry of Defence. In terms of performance and scope, we apply engineering expertise and judgment. We help the client come up with a clear specification that describes the capability that the user actually needs, okay, to do the job. We take a focused approach to testing with read across where possible. We have the right level of flexibility built into the specification to ensure that we hit that time target and take a progressive assurance approach to meeting the specification that we've set out. Okay? In terms of time, hopefully we can avoid this firefighting mode, this panic mode that sets in for urgent projects. And we put in place a robust schedule, but it's to the right level of detail. It's not thousands and thousands of lines which cannot be managed within these time frames. Okay? Cost alignment with the project life cycle, which, as I said, can be summarised for urgent projects. underpinned by clear assumptions, that single source of truth for the project. Risk, simple but robust risk management system. All of this has got to be able to be managed. A risk analysis, so we can still analyse the impact of risk and uncertainty on time and cost to provide the client with robust confidence figures. And a joint approach. As we say, we do a lot of work with UK MOD and helping them work more closely with their equipment suppliers. Okay? If there is a problem, intervention. We can get in there, we can analyse what the problem is, find out the root causes, and put in place corrective action. In terms of the equipment supplier, again, they have a clear and achievable specification, okay? They know what they need to deliver more clearly. They can plan their testing to the right level of detail, and they can take an informed approach to concessions, trade-offs, where and if appropriate. In terms of time, they've got more clear and achievable timescales, which gives them a sound basis for forward resource planning and visibility of the activities that are critical to the client, so they understand what is important to, in this case, UK MOD in delivering this capability. Cost, realistic budget, basis for establishing what contingency they require to build into that budget. In terms of risk, there's a joint approach to risk management, okay? So there's no, they're your risks, these are our risks, thank you very much. We want visibility across the piece. An understanding of the client's concerns, and a risk analysis, again, taking into account that uncertainty and risk impact on cost and time. In terms of intervention, if we're going into equipment suppliers to sort out problems, then they get an independent audit, scrutiny of their practices and processes, and it contributes to their culture of continuous improvement. Okay? I have to stress there that they don't always like us going in to find out what the problems are. And that's it from me. Thank you very much for turning up today and bearing with me. I don't care how big the audience is. If you have managed to take away something from this, then that's enough for me. Okay? Are there any questions at all?
Is Norway doing a statement or assumption that this will apply to any project, not just to an emerging project?
Yeah, I mean, the fundamentals that I've described there, absolutely, they are the bedrock of disciplined project management. I guess it's the level of tailoring that you need to apply. For example, Eddie, not to pick on anyone, sorry, Eddie is a colleague of mine in the company, and we work on very different projects. Eddie works on a large, complex, multi-billion-pound project, whereas I work on these urgent, quick turnaround projects. And it's the approach, the fundamentals are the same, but it's the level of detail, it's the tailoring, okay? Because that time is critical. Okay. Anything else? Good. I'm going to put out some business cards and case studies at the front. So if you'd like to take them away with you, please feel free to do so. And give me a shout if you want any more information. Okay? Thank you very much.